Welcome to Black and Gold Digital Edition, a behind-the-scenes look at your Pittsburgh Steelers.
Hi, and welcome to Week 15 of our digital show. I'm Jay Pushkar alongside Mike Fenner and Kent Urbanski. And guys, we're going to jump right into it since the Steelers had that midi bye week for the most cause with them playing on a Thursday night. They got Tennessee coming up this week. Critical matchup because little did we know that they were still going to be in the mix, not only in the AFC, but in the divisional race as well with Cleveland beating Baltimore and Cincinnati losing to San Francisco.
And really having these AFC games left and 2 division games left when you consider Cleveland at home at Baltimore, I think the AFC North might be more attainable than a wild card spot at this point, which is crazy to think. But because of the situation Baltimore's now in with their loss, not knowing what Lamar Jackson's status is going to be for the remainder of the season with their tough schedule, Cincinnati in not as ideal position with their loss as well, I think the Steelers could actually be thinking division, but of course you got to take it 1 week at a time. And before those 2 division games, you've got the tall order at home and then at Kansas City as well.
And Ken, everybody's schedule in the AFC North is difficult. And then when you throw in Cleveland and their situation, even with COVID,
That's true.
I mean, this is a wild, wild chase down the stretch that it could be possible for Pittsburgh. It's still bleak, but they've got a chance.
Remember I talked about last week's show that, you know, they're putting themselves into a position where they're going to need some help, and they're getting that help. Now they got to help themselves.
Yep.
And so this is a prime opportunity. You're back home, and and also talked about trends. It almost seems like it's a win-one, lose-one trend going on here. So if that trend holds true, then they get to win this week and keep themselves in it. And so it's really important. This probably is their last opportunity. There's no margin for error here. You got to win this one.
How critical is it to have the home field advantage at least this week, too, to try to get back in the win column and try to get some momentum down the stretch?
Extremely, because like I said, you need all the help you can get. And when you're on your home turf, you're getting help from the fans. You're getting help from familiarity and not having to travel. And so yeah, I think it's crucial, and I think they play well, much better at home, especially coming off losses like they did. So they've got some needed rest now and getting a little more healthy, getting some players back, and Tennessee's not coming in at 100%. So I think this is a prime opportunity for them to right the ship.
And Mike, it seems like almost week 2 or week 3 that Tennessee was 100% from the roster standpoint. They come in banged up, but boy, what a job Mike Vrabel has done with this program and this organization, making sure that they find ways to win and continue to play at a high level, and they're certainly doing that.
It's hard to believe because they broke the NFL record for most activated players a couple weeks ago. For an entire regular season, over 84 guys now have played in a game active for their roster. They've had over 20 guys at one point on injured reserve. Of course, the headliner being Derrick Henry, who's been out since that Colts win on Halloween. So he's now been out 6 weeks. His timeline back for the playoffs between 6 and 10 weeks. He's been absent. No A.J. Brown for this matchup against Pittsburgh. That's big. You're really going to be able to isolate against Julio Jones for the Steelers secondary, who really has just come back for the first time last week against the Jaguars. It's really a banged-up offense for Tennessee. Their linebacker core has been decimated as well. Secondary's been an issue. They lost their first-round pick in Caleb Farley, who was a corner back in the Buffalo Monday night game. They've been really banged up, to say the least. So, yeah, you're definitely catching this team at the right time because early in the season they were playing some great football. 6-2 start. They lose Henry. They somehow win 2 more games after that, somehow go to the Rams and win that game. But there's still going to be a challenge. I think the biggest thing that the Pittsburgh Steelers have to worry about is their offensive line pass protection against the pass rush that's been much improved. I mean, when they played at Tennessee last year, this was the worst third down defense in NFL modern history since going back to like 92. And, I mean, they had 19 sacks as a team all season. This year they've been much improved, and one of the guys that's been a key anchor to that is coming back this week in Bud Dupree, the former Steeler, who was so successful, especially setting up T.J. Watt and complementing each other so well.
And Kent, the biggest problem for Pittsburgh, and we've heard it from Mike Tomlin for like the last 3 or 4 weeks, is they are getting beat up front, whether it's offensive line, defensive line. Not to mention the slow start offensively. I mean, it doesn't seem like they kick it into gear till like the 3rd or 4th quarter. They can't do that even against a team that, you know, has been banged up like Tennessee has been.
I don't care who's running the football. If you're leaving holes for guys to run through it, Ben Roethlisberger could have run for 100 yards against the Steelers defense in Minnesota. they got to find a way to plug those holes, and I don't know how they're going to do it, but you can't let guys just run wild for 20 yards at a clip, 10 yards at a clip. And like I said, I mean, it doesn't matter that they don't have Derrick Henry. They still have guys that can run the football that are professional football players. You give them holes like that, they're going to run through them. So that's the key that right, like you said, they need to get back to controlling both lines of scrimmage, offensively and defensively. And that offensive line cannot let Ben keep taking hits like that, or it might be an earlier season than he wants it to be.
Mike, how do the Steelers get that offense going a little bit? Because it's been a struggle, whether it's been at home, on the road, and it just seems like if they can get a 10-point lead or get some points on the board early, it will lessen the stress level of the defense.
I think they need to attack these Tennessee corners because, again, without Farley, Jack Rabbit Jenkins has been in and out. Christian Fulton's been their only reliable guy back there since he's been healthy, but I think they could really take advantage of their corners and a thin secondary. That's one of their weak spots on the field. I think that, even if Chase Claypool is kind of isolated by Fulton or shadowed by Fulton, I think you can get guys underneath and these crossing routes to work in James Washington, Deontay Johnson. I think Deontay Johnson could have a really big day in this matchup because I think that secondary is such a mismatch. Because, again, it really is going to come down to, though, how quickly Ben can get the ball out, because that pass rush is very effective when they're healthy. Mm-hmm. You've got Bud Dupree, Jeffrey Simmons on the interior, Danico Autry coming over from the Colts, and Harold Landry, who's had a career year, who's about to get paid. I mean, you've got 4 legitimate pass rushers. When they're all on the field, that's going to be a tough matchup. So getting the ball out quickly is going to be big, but I think if they can get some guys open against that secondary, they could be in good shape.
Ken, how do you see this one playing out?
I like the Steelers at home on this one. Like I said, the trend is leading upward for them. I think they play well at home. I think they are the desperate. Both teams are desperate here, but the Steelers are ultimately the more desperate team. You got to win to stay in the hunt, and if they don't, you're looking at being out already. So I like them. I like their chances. I think they win by a touchdown. I don't think they're not going to blow Tennessee out by any margin, but. More 2-minute offense, more quick snaps, and don't let Ben take too much time throwing the ball and taking hits like he has. If he can get rid of the ball, loosen that defense up a little bit, and then start running with Najee Harris a little bit more, I think they'll create a balance. I think they'll snap back and win this.
Mike, it should be a fun one because you got Tennessee still in the running for at least a #1 seed too, with the record that they have. But
That's
Pittsburgh,
unreal.
as Kent mentioned, Pittsburgh playing for their lives to get into the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, this is what you want in a matchup like this late in the season, where it's 2 teams you don't see play each other very often. Both have a lot to play for here. I mean, this on paper, 2 pretty decent teams in terms of what they try to do, and both have that physical mentality too. I just think this is going to be a total line of scrimmage type of game. Should be a close and low scoring game, I agree. But I think for Pittsburgh defensively, if TJ Watt's out there and at full strength, which we hope and expect he's going to be, that could be the biggest difference maker too, because the offensive line for the Titans has struggled to protect, much like Pittsburgh. They've whiffed 2 straight drafts on right tackles, and frankly, they've got a guy out there in David Quesenberry who's not really qualified to do the job and hold up. Mm-hmm. That could be a position of weakness that Pittsburgh could attack on the edge. And I think the pass rush, if you've got a Watt, if you've got a Highsmith, they're out there healthy, it could really make a difference in this game. I think whoever can get the lead early is going to be able to play their formula of game they want to play with running the football and sticking with it. But if either of these teams gets down big, I wouldn't want it to be, from the Titans' perspective, I think if they get down big, that could be a much bigger problem than with Pittsburgh, who seems to be able to turn it on in the fourth quarter. Right. They can flip the script much more easily than the other team on the other side.
Play fourth quarter football for all 4 quarters, you win the game.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great analysis.
Yeah.
If it was only that easy,
right,
Yeah.
Right. Almost like a Tomlinism there, right? We need to play 4-quarter football all game.
Roethlisberger made a good point this week, though. He's like, it doesn't just have to come down to using that 2-minute type offense when you're down. He's like, we can just use it to change tempo. If it's a 1-score game or a tied game in the middle of the contest, hey, let's just go and do it this drive just to try and throw them off. It doesn't have to be, hey, we're down 20 points in the fourth quarter, now we have to run it. He likes to go back and forth between that, that steady offense and kind of the 2-minute deal and try to just change tempo and get them off their heels.
Well, the playoffs officially start next month, but at this point in the season, let the playoffs begin right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's kind of, I'm looking forward to it because this has been that kind of a year. No one really is jumping out at you. Any team can win and lose each week, it seems. So it's going to be kind of fun. But I am worried about what COVID's starting to hit hard again. And so hopefully that doesn't put a damper into things going forward.
Yeah, keep our fingers crossed
Yeah.
that the teams that are in the playoff mix are the true
Right.
teams that we would see in the postseason and
Right.
not have the virus really affect.
Yeah, you don't want to see stars go down with it and then have playoff wins marred by that. You know, that's just, no one wants to see that.
Yeah.
Well, keep our fingers crossed on that front. Well, from all of us here, for Mike Fenner and Kent Urbanski, I'm Jay Pushkar. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for watching. Join us again next week for Black and Gold Digital Edition.